Please note this meeting will be live streamed. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? None. Public hearings.
Okay, we have two public hearings tonight. The first one, public hearing is being held to consider proposed zoning bylaw amendment application under section 34 of the Planning Act for the property located on Merritt Concession 4, Broken Lot 4, parcel 17269 SWS, 1124 Keywell Drive in Espanola. And the effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the property from waterfront residential zone to waterfront residential special exception 6 in order to permit a dog kennel and a maximum relief of 3 feet from section 3.1E of the bylaw for the height of the roof of an accessory building. The kennel would be located a minimum of 186 feet from the high water mark of the river. So I'll just make a statement that to date we haven't received any written comments on the application. We have received two calls. One which was with respect to the road, just to ensure that Keywell Drive would remain as it is, and this zoning bylaw amendment does not affect that at all. And the other call that I received this evening was with respect to noise, so there is some concern with respect to barking dogs.
Is there anyone here who wants to speak to this item number 1?
We could address the noise situation, question if you want.
So, council, this is the applicant, and
Just state your name, sir.
I'm Dave Williamson. Wasn't able to dog kennel. As far as the noise concerns are, the kennel building that we're proposing to build up will be very well insulated. The dogs will be inside most of the time. Noise will be very minimal, if anything. We don't have any direct neighbors at all. We're pretty isolated out there, so I don't feel noise will be a concern. We are on the north side of the lake. Predominant winds are from the south-southwest, so behind us is Miles Bush. So.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? No.
Just a question, Your Worship, for him.
Oh, go ahead.
For the, how many runs or how many animals are you proposing to keep?
We're proposing to keep a maximum of 10.
Thank you, that's what I thought it was, looking at your drawing.
No, item number 2.
okay, so that closes this portion of the public hearing. So the next item is notification under the provisions of the notice bylaw 2016/08, which is a notice of a public hearing that council received a request from RM Boulanger Limited for an exemption to municipal bylaw number 1189/96, being the noise bylaw. This exemption would permit RM Boulanger Limited to run a pump used in the dewatering process of the 2018-01 Espanola Infrastructure Renewal Program Phase 2A. It is crucial to the project. The operation of the pump is sustained for the duration of the work where high groundwater is located.
Anyone here wishing to speak to this item?
I do.
Go ahead, sir.
I
State your
would
name.
ask, Herb Watkins, I would ask that before council approve this request, that Melange Construction be asked to reduce the noise from their pump. Put in a different pump, whatever, I don't know what's available, but do something, because the noise is not bearable for some of us. And we do have a right to our peace, quiet, especially at midnight, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You can't open your windows. You can't run your HRV because of the diesel fuel and the exhaust coming into the residence. You're basically in a box with no air. And I understand it has to go on. There's no question here that it's a capital project for the town. It's already started. They've contravened the bylaw for over 2 months now for noise. And a little consideration on Melange Construction's part would go a long way for, I'm not speaking for anybody but myself, but it would go for a long way for me to have a little bit of peace, a little quiet. After midnight, I don't care what they do through the day, I don't care what they do till midnight. But let's cut the noise down a little bit from midnight to say 6 in the morning, just so we can get some peace. The summer months, and you need ventilation in your house. You know, we're in a box here right now. Roger has contravened the bylaw for 2 months now. The noise level has stayed the same. And I understand that, you know, he's probably going to get this request that he's asking for, but could they not stipulate council ask for some a little bit quieter, something, I don't know what's possible. Roger might be able to speak on that, but it's just quieten down just a little bit, somehow, please.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on this issue? None?
Okay, so this portion is closed, and we move to the next.
Yeah. We have one delegation, Eve Carrier, local resident. You want to speak to council? Please.
I came, I guess it was a month and a half ago, I don't know the exact date, talk about that snowmobile restriction to council. And at the time, we're supposed to get staff recommendation, and then we'll go with at least council would look at the staff recommendation and make a decision, and I think the decision is going to be made very shortly. So when I read the staff delegation, the staff recommendation, I was disappointed, really disappointed, and I understand that you know, staff is busy, and they got all these contracts coming up, they're busy. And so summer's coming, I understand it. But it's a snowmobile restriction. If they're too busy, then you wait and do it later, because it's not, hopefully it's not gonna snow soon. No, it snowed in Newfoundland, but I hope it'll snow. Anyway, so there was 3 items on that recommendation. And I won't speak to the first one right away, but the second one was ask the snowmobile club to take over that trail. Well, everybody here, and probably in the back, no, they won't. It's too narrow, it won't happen, and I know that. The third one was, let's ask the neighbor. If it's okay with all the neighbors, then yeah, okay, maybe we'll consider it. But you know what? A neighbor complained, and I've never seen a place when I used to be in council where 100% of the neighbors agreed on anything, okay? And that's just the way it is. So to me, it was tailored not to go further than this. And this is my point of view, and it's just what I believe. The first recommendation was the big word that all councillors hate to hear, liability. Oh my God, we got liability. You know what? You're liable for everything in the town council. Whether it's somebody using the washroom at the pool, or it's somebody walking on the sidewalk, you're liable. The question is, are you negligent? And if you're not, then you're not worried about liabilities. So I went and walked that trail in the summertime. You know, I don't know about the trail. You know, and the question was, you know, a snowmobile drove too fast. I mentioned that a snowmobile there cannot go more than 10 kilometers an hour because it's like this, it's like a camel. You know, and you can't drive faster than that. And when I went there, I noticed there's a sign that says pedestrian, and then you can use your mountain bike there, right? But a mountain bike there makes 0 decibel. When it turns the corner, it goes a lot faster than 10 kilometers an hour. And I almost got hit. You know, but there's no, it's a liability wherever you go. What I'm getting at is, I gave you a good reason why the park should be closed, and I'm not going to mention that again for various reasons. And actually, I gave you 2 reasons why the park should not be open in the winter, because you know, there's liabilities. We're not inspecting equipment. So what I'm hoping this council comes out with after I'm finished talking, so let us go through, not to accept this staff recommendation, you know, because to me, just mentioning liability and 2 things that aren't going to happen, that doesn't cut it. You know, it doesn't cut it. So hopefully you reconsider. I know you haven't made a decision, so I shouldn't ask you to reconsider, but you actually look at that, because the word liability is just a word, you know, and you're liable for everything. You're liable, maybe there's liabilities everywhere. No, that's what I'm getting at. You know, you think of public safety, that's your number 1, and if you're not negligent, then let us taxpayers enjoy a bit than parking my trailer on Queensway or wherever. It doesn't make sense, you know? So hope you consider this in your decision making. I don't know if you're making the decision today or soon, but please consider this and, you know, let me know. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right, question period concerning the agenda.
Okay, so we will move into part one of the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Ray Dufour, second by Councillor Ron Duplessis. Be resolved that items A1 to F7 inclusive contained in part one consent agenda be adopted.
Under the A section, are there any questions or comments? In the B section, are there any questions or comments? Councillor?
That was a community services meeting where you discussed this.
Which
The,
discussion?
the Skidoo
Yep,
through
and
there.
it was, the consensus was, of course, to take into account the underwriters and lawyers things, but we're waiting, it's gonna come back to the committee. They're gonna approach the Snow Machine Club. I don't think we should be negative about it and prejudge. Let's see what they say.
Okay,
So it's gonna come back.
to community services.
Yeah, it'll come back to community
Okay,
services.
so at that point, we can give some more input.
Yep.
Okay,
There are no matters arising from the in-camera session, and there's no business arising from board and committees at this time. Bylaws and resolutions, under the E section, are there any questions or comments? Under the F section, are there any questions or comments? Items A1 to F7 inclusive contained in part 1 consent agenda be adopted. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, moving into part two of the regular agenda. Item G1, moved by Councillor Bill Foster, second by Councillor Helen Lott. Be it resolved that bylaw 2857/18 be adopted, being a bylaw to rezone the portion of the property located on Merritt Concession 4, part broken lot 4, parcel 17269, SWS 1124 Keywell Drive, Town of Espanola, zoned as waterfront residential to waterfront residential special exception 6, in order to permit a dog kennel accessory to the main use, which is a single-family dwelling, as a home occupation, and relief from height provisions for the roof of the garage/kennel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Rowan.
I went out and had a look at the place. I didn't know if he was an owner, and I didn't go in because I saw the private property sign. I went as far as I could. And from the schematic and what I've seen, I don't see a problem. And even the comment about the road, that road's a pretty nice road and very wide, and I don't expect to see a million cars. I don't see a problem in it.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Ray.
I have a question regarding neighbors. I heard the gentleman say his neighbors aren't very close to him. I would just like to know what's the distance, if it could be a tall.
Well, I think he owns 58 acres there. so-
Yes, he does, 57 or something.
266 acres we own there.
260. So where would your closest neighbor be?
Or a kilometer away.
Over a kilometer? Okay.
That's a Mr. Williams, I think.
cross the lake, eh?
Across the lake.
That's Mr. Williamson's, was there something in there?
Yes, that
Yeah,
was my father.
yeah, because it's a long way in there.
Yeah. Anyone else? All in favor? Carried.
Item G2, moved by Councillor Ken Duplessis, second by Councillor Bill Foster. Be it resolved that an exemption to bylaw 1189/96 noise control regulations be granted to R. Boulanger Limited to run a pump used in the dewatering process of the 2018-01 Espanola Infrastructure Renewal Program Phase 2.
Questions or comments? Councillor Rowan.
I've been down at the location a couple times. I walked all the construction site actually this weekend again and looked at the pump setup. I was talking to our site control person, I don't remember his name, first time I was out, the one that kind of intermediary between them and us, the town. And he was going to talk to them, but I guess there's only a limited amount they can do there, what I understand. I'd like to know when we sign a contract like that, and allow them to do it like tender them, do they even consider noise? Because I mean, I don't know if they were aware that it was a low area. I know I was aware, because there used to be a planned subdivision there 40 years ago, and it never went anywhere because of that. Do they have that in any of their tender documents, or did they ask, or is it just when they encounter something, then they come to us?
They need that size of pump, so I don't know.
No, but
I
are
don't
they
think
aware
it's
before
tendered.
they start that they're
I don't think
going
it's
to
tendered
pump?
as to, I don't think it's tendered as to each piece of equipment that Belanger is going to put out there. Go ahead, Joe.
No, it's not really, it's not a question that they've asked. In fact, actually, I thought we were exempt from the bylaw ourselves. We've had dewatering pumps on several projects over the last 10 years within the community, and we've never had an issue. That's not saying that the complaint is not valid. I'm just saying that
I don't know if the pumps we've had in the past were as close proximity to be in the center of all the homes. And I know the gentleman that was there when I first went, he said this one would probably be out of service in 3 or 4 weeks. We'd only be using the second one. Is that still the case?
well, I was going to use an example at Merritt Street Lift Station when we had the pumps there going. That it was right adjacent to a home. We also did construction for Phase 1F. We had to dewater that section from Reed Street to just past Marguerite Street. The pumps are right there in the no further distance than what we're presently doing. I'm just reporting that there hasn't been complaints in the past.
How long is this gonna take, Joe?
Well, it's dependent on the water table, and it's how much they can extract the water. It's based on a rate, and then they'll dig. We're hoping.
So it's just occurring more water?
Yeah, what happens is they just start pumping water out of the ground, and basically your water table just starts to,
Okay. So it's gonna take a while.
in that area, another couple of weeks.
I seen where Belanger was supposed to have built a box and put it over the pump.
They do.
Out of plywood, did that help?
It's insulated. I believe it's helped.
The decibels are 70 in that area, the highest decibels, I think. They were tested.
I'd have to refer to Mr. Parker. I didn't take any of this.
We did take a decibel reading of between 70 and 75 at the lot line of the property from the complaint.
You know, and I'm still, I guess, going back to the question is, I know you're saying it shouldn't take too long, but do you think that pump will be out of service and they'll just use the second one on the next street over? Or you don't know that? Or
I can't speak.
You can't, okay. And is there any other option for pumps? I know there's electric pumps, but I don't think they have them.
The other option would be a change of contract, and then you'd have to go to sheet piling, and then they would excavate, and then any water come in, they would have to pump out that day and then try and, but that would be a costly venture.
No, I just wondered when people tender on a job, can they come back if they run into difficulty and start rebuilding to do the job? I mean, they've tendered and said they're gonna do the job for a set amount. So now if they encounter where they had to do more to alleviate noise, would we be liable to, like a cost plus?
It's potential if it's outside the original scope of work. It'll be a challenge to demonstrate. You'd have to go back to the language of the contract and go specifically in that category with dewatering. And if there aren't any noise set limits, and the contractor is continually being asked to do additional or change to an electric pump, I think that the contractor could very well come back to the corporation and request additional funds to compensate that.
See, I know, and there hasn't been complaints in the other areas, but what we find noisy and what that person finds noisy is never the same thing. And they're saying 70 to 75 decibels. At 85 decibels, you have to wear hearing protection constantly. So 70, 75 is lower. And you know, during the day, I don't know if you find that, I find noise doesn't bother you the same. At night when there's absolutely still, then you hear noise more. But I know it does create a little, I realize that. And I wish there was a simple solution. I don't see one. But I wish Mr. Boulanger could try a little harder maybe to, and I don't know if he can do anything else. Double wall it.
Sir, you had something to add?
Yeah, whenever I can, please, yes.
Go ahead, right
Now,
now.
we're on to the noise level and the disturbing of people. Your own public works personnel measured between 70 and 75 decibels. Sorry, I didn't hear you. My hearing's not good at times. That's fortunate sometimes, I guess. But anything between 80 or from 80 to 85, the occupational health and safety for the province of Ontario recommends hearing protection. So if anybody can sit here today and say, at my property line, Mr. Parker measured between 70 and 75 decibels at my property line. And if you can say that that's not noisy at 2 o'clock in the morning, when anything from 80 to 85, you should be wearing earplugs or ear protection. Is it noisy? I don't even see that there's an argument about the noise level. I understand again that it has to go on, but this is noisy, and particularly noisy at 2 o'clock in the morning. All they have there, and I've looked at it, and all they have there now is cheap plywood around it with the insulating orange tarp that anybody can buy at the hardware store. That's all they have. The roof is open, and this is a big diesel engine, the same type of engine that would be in the transport shop. That's all they have there. They promised to lower it from 1,500 RPMs through the day down to 1,000 at night. I don't honestly believe that that's being done, because I don't hear any difference in the noise. And if it is being done, that doesn't help.
You'd have to listen to some of their circumstances. Like the water table there is very high, so if they don't pump it out at night, they won't be able to work in the morning.
No, and I'm not saying no pump, stop pumping. What I'm saying is put adequate insulation or a building around this, or get a pump that doesn't make so much. They had a pump there, right down the street, and unfortunately it broke. They had a pump there, a diesel engine that made probably half or less than half the noise that this one is currently making. They had to replace it because it broke. And something went wrong with it, and it went down, so they replaced it with this pump. Now this pump is twice as noisy. I've heard the other pump running, so we can't say that there's no diesel pumps out there that are quieter, because he had one there, and the workers told me themselves that
All right,
the
sir.
pump
All right.
broke, and they had to replace it.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
What does council suggest here? Go
I
ahead.
know that this work has to go on. I know this work has to go on, Your Worship. I know we have a big contract there and we're trying to improve water quality for the whole neighborhood. But in the motion, could we add that, I don't know, Boulanger tries to double wall that, put more insulation, add a little something to it to try to alleviate it as much as possible? We can try.
Well, go ahead.
I mean, if council, that's council's request, we can make that request.
Sure. At council's request, we can do what?
Council Duplessis was requesting the motion include
Double walls.
to put an
Something.
additional sound bearing protective qualities, and I'm sorry, he looked at me for an answer.
No, I'm not, I'm just, I mean, we're grasping at straws, we want the work to go on, but we want to try to be reasonable with neighborhoods also. You know?
Well, I got a motion here.
Your worship.
Worship,
Just if I could suggest, if we're gonna add anything, don't specify something like double wall, leave it
Leave it to
relatively
them.
ambiguous so that the staff can talk to them and see if there's anything further they can do.
Right.
And let's not limit ourselves here. That's all. But the work must go on.
Well, excuse me. Could I'd like to
Yeah, go
ask-
ahead.
Like to ask someone. When I was up there last, I noticed there was a lot of water that is directly right there by the pump, like maybe with, 10 or 15 feet in the bush, there's tons of water there. And I can see it's starting to impede towards a resident. I was wondering if we could move that line further out. I'm just asking. Could we move that line further out so the water
Discharge line?
would, yeah, the discharge line, so it wouldn't be so close to the, to where they're trying to pump out of. If we moved it further out, would that help for the water to recede back into the ground? Because you wouldn't be as close to it as you are right now. I'm just wondering.
Well, I haven't been there in a little bit, so I'm not exactly sure the exact geographic. But I mean, there is a discharge site, and there has to be, make sure that it's clean water going into the nearby stream. We can certainly take it under review, but I don't see it having an immediate impact. Traditionally, when you're dewatering, it's almost like the water table, and then it drops almost vertically.
Right.
In that specific area.
Because there's a lot of water there, and I was just wondering if some of it is seeping back. Well, I know some of it is seeping back into the ground.
We're happy to see if we can mitigate and push it further.
Well, I'm sure anything we can do to alleviate some of this gentleman's problems would be greatly appreciated. I'm sure of that. Thank you.
All right. Be it resolved that an exemption to bylaw 1189/96 noise control regulations be granted to RM Belanger Limited to run a pump using the dewatering process of the 2018-01 Espanola Infrastructure Renewal Program, Phase 2A. All in favor?
I thought you were gonna add something about trying to alleviate noise.
But I don't have anything here to add it to. Are we gonna add something?
Please.
I'm thinking somewhere.
Are we adding anything?
Well, I think we should do what Bob has suggested there.
Okay.
Give them some leeway, a direction to see if they can improve the noise level some more.
That's right, an ongoing effort to improve the noise ratio, or something like that.
Do something to further reduce noise. Just do something to further reduce noise. That's
Yeah.
all.
Attempt.
Yeah.
Attempt. Don't strap them. What is it? Ken. Looks like Ken, I think. Just initials. Of course, if I put my glasses on.
So, the motion now reads, moved by Councillor Ken Ducey, seconded by Councillor Bill Foster. Be it resolved that an exemption to by 1189/96 noise control regulations be granted to RM Belanger Limited to run a pump used in the dewatering process of the 2018-01 Espanola Infrastructure Renewal Program Phase 2A. And RM Belanger be requested to take additional measures to attempt to reduce noise levels further.
All in favor? Carried.
Item G3, moved by Councillor Ken Ducey, seconded by Councillor Bill Foster. Be it resolved that the site plan control agreement between the corporation of the town of Espanola, the Huron Superior District School Board, and the Conseil Scolaire de District Catholique de Nouvelle-Ontario be accepted as presented, and a bylaw be prepared to adopt the agreement.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
Item G4, moved by Councillor Heather Malott, seconded by Councillor Ken Duplessis. Be it resolved that council award the 2018 winter sand tender to OCL Custom Crushing and Pouring Limited.
Questions or comments? Councillor Bell.
I have a question about the tendering in general. We've had a couple of occasions recently where we've gone out and asked for tenders and some people aren't replying, okay? They're not submitting a tender. If that happens, do we keep a record of that so the following year we maybe reconsider whether we would ask that group to tender? Just a general question, okay, but relating to tendering?
We can go, I think just in our immediate filing cabinet, we can go back 5 years to
Yeah.
who tendered and who didn't. And for the contractor, it varies from year to year, and it's really dependent on the amount of work they've had. I mean, I've had some contractors reply in the past and say, thank you for the opportunity, but I can't have to decline at this time.
Oh, okay, so that may be why they're not doing that. I was just wondering, but if we have somebody consistently turns it down, then it's probably better off to send a tender out to somebody else to give them an opportunity.
There aren't so many local
Yeah.
opportunities, and when we have to start trucking in from larger distances, that
Sure.
that certainly drives our cost up.
Sure. Okay.
Councillor Ryan.
I agree with Mr. Yurko. We have such a limited group of contractors in the area to even look at this type of work, that if we start eliminating because we didn't tender 1 year, first thing you know, we'd be sending out maybe 1 tender. It would be very cost efficient to us as a community.
It's maintenance season too, and I guess a lot of people are busy working right now too. So they're not gonna throw away 2 jobs to come down here for 1. So I think it works out really well. All in favor? Carried.
Item G5, moved by Councillor Heather Malott, seconded by Councillor Ken Duplessis. Be resolved that bylaw 2836, I think this is the wrong bylaw number. Oh, yes, sorry, 2836/18 be adopted, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement in order to participate in Ontario's Main Streets Revitalization Initiative. 16.
Questions or comments? Councillor Ryan.
I noticed when we were reading all through the staff reports and everything, I noticed conjunction with Cheryl and I did some usual stuff. It's great, there's provincial money, and I noticed we mentioned our park over here. What do we hope to achieve from that, from what we can get from that to help with that? Because I know we had a concern back here prior to budget.
Yeah, we had talked about it at budget time and just about making the park safe and that, so we've been able to get a landscape engineer, which was hard to find, and so she's going to come up with something for us. So
From this funding?
We're hoping to maybe use some of it. I mean, we do have a provision in the budget for some of it, and the idea was, you know, we could supplement it with this if needed. And also the staff report refers to the banners that would qualify, and that kind of thing. So
Would there be money usable out of this budget or out of this grant or whatever to do some of the remedial work that we needed there to make it safe?
yes.
We could utilize it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it would be an
that's what I
eligible
thought.
project, so.
Okay, great, that's what I thought.
Anyone else? All in favor? Carried.
Item G6 is for discussion and direction, basically. It's the community safety zones. This went to corporate services, or community services, And there was discussion, and the committee directed staff to bring it to this meeting.
Questions or comments? Ron?
I had asked for this, Your Worship. I brought it up some time back, and I'm glad to see we finally got some answers. I saw Mr. Parker's. He thought, as far as the mall, I looked at the concept behind community safety zones, and it's predominantly for safety, schools, hospitals, playgrounds, nursing homes, those areas. We utilize it from the bridge to Key Willow Drive. Other than the public school in the center, Secret Heart School, there is no other entity that falls under that category. If we're concerned about community safety for every street, then we should make the town a community safety. We obviously aren't going to do that. There are no other Northern Ontario communities, some on the Trans-Canada. We've got Walden, Wagner, Blind River, Elliott Lake, Sault Ste. Marie, and the city of Sudbury, where our police chief that we have interim comes from, that do not utilize community safety zones. As a matter of fact, the chief of Sudbury at the time said they could deal with speeding through enforcement. And I noticed our chief mentioned the enforcement was quite good in his report. So are we looking for enforcement, or are we looking for a cash cow? I think we lose the concept of it. I'm not opposed to it in those specific areas. I'm opposed to it from the bridge to the other side of Clear Lake. I would think if we started someplace around Tuttle, Mead, and went as far as Fleming or Wilson, we would certainly cover 600 plus feet on each side of that school zone. And we know that in the very near future, within 2 years, there won't even be a school there. So to have it for over a mile and a half, to me is just ludicrous. It's definitely for a different purpose than trying to reduce speeding. We reduce speeding through enforcement, not through doubling fines. If I'm going to pay $300 and I'm not worried about it, I don't think I'm going to care about $500. So I think we need to narrow the concept of it down. That's my opinion only. And not put a bad mark out there like we have in our tourist brochure that says, watch out in Espanola, they're after your cash. Front page of a tourist brochure. And we're interested in tourism.
Councilor Bob?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think the interim police chief's letter kind of touches on one very important thing. And regarding the tourist brochure, we have a reputation for enforcement. It doesn't have anything to do with the community safety zones, which I have no problem reconsidering them, but I think it's the enforcement. And if we're enforcing the law, well, I'm not sure what we're going to do about that one. Apparently, and this one was something the community did ask to have checked, according to the chief's letter, it appears that this is a discretionary, whether it's a ticket in a community safety zone is a discretionary matter on the part of the officer. So I think you got two different things going here, and they kind of got mixed up. Obviously, his suggestion to do a review over the course of a year of what type of tickets they do is kind of a waste of time, because we've got a police department change coming up. I would think that we have to separate the two, and we can't direct our police not to enforce the speed limit. But we do have some control over where there is a community safety zone and increased fines. But the real question is, how many times are they giving out a ticket for a community safety zone, or just a regular speeding ticket? So,
go ahead, Bob.
So removing the community safety zone probably won't change whatever is written on the front of this brochure, which I remember seeing some years ago. And thanks.
I'm more in favor, in my opinion, of safety zones, because I travel this road every day coming to the office, and from here straight through to 2nd Street, you have nothing but high school kids walking on the sidewalk, and some of them not walking on the sidewalk. We have truck traffic that doesn't care sometimes how fast they come through town, and there's no controlling them. And I believe the safety zone should stay right where they are. Yes.
I'm not saying we shouldn't enforce speeding. Every community does, and the local police forces or the OPP certainly do that. And what I'm saying is, it just gives the police the discretion to choose if they feel like ticketing you double or at a regular rate. And I think that's the part that's wrong. I'm not opposed to the enforcement. And I don't think because you saw that community safety zone, your worship, you drove any slower. You drove the speed limit. Did this, I, for the life of me, don't see why we would give somebody an option in an area that's not covered. We're not telling them they can speed, and we're not telling our police officers not to enforce the law. We're just looking at it. It's meant for specific purposes. And this chief that made this comes from Sudbury, where they're completely opposed to them. And there's certainly a lot more traffic, and yet they think it should be handled through enforcement. And I agree. But I am not opposed to the fact that in those specific areas for schools, that we look at those options.
I'm not interested in Sudbury, the safety in Sudbury.
Well, we often,
I'm
Your
more
Worship.
interested in the safety in Espanola. Go ahead.
We often compare our community. We'll say, well, why don't we do this? Because they're doing it in Sudbury, or they're doing it in Nugget Lake, or they're doing it here. Well, in this matter, we don't want to compare. We just want to compare when it's convenient, I guess.
No, I want to compare because it's safety I'm talking about.
But we're not saying you can speed. We're just saying, why double the fines possibly? We're still enforcement. We're not saying speed.
I don't know where the jurisdiction for council ends or starts on that. Go ahead, Ray.
Well, council's position is the law. We want the law to be enforced. He's not saying to take the law away. No. He's saying take the fine, the possibility that an officer can charge you twice as much as a regular fine would be worth to anybody. That's all he's saying. He's not saying stop the law.
I know what he's saying.
And that's not the only place in town. Like, we're talking Highway 6, but you got Avery Drive, you got other places in the community that have this, and I don't believe there's any reason for it. I mean, I don't have it on my street, and nor should I. You know what I mean? But yes, if you're close to a park, anywhere in those areas, yes. You know, you take a rational sight of, or line of sight, and you work within that parameter, sure. But I agree with Councillor Duplessis that this community safety zone is not, I don't think, is not a thing that we should have just if it is a money thing. I don't know whether it is or not. That's not the point. The point is it shouldn't be in there.
Councillor Bill.
You know, we have a couple ways to control the speed and the safety. And one is, I never even realized we had a community safety zone that went out to Clear Lake. You hit the 40-kilometer zone near the school, and then you hit 50, and you drive accordingly, okay? If we're worried about particular areas with safety, we can control that by adjusting this, for example, keeping the speed limit down to 40 until we hit 2nd Street, okay? And then move it up where we have less traffic going across the street. You got the giant taggers, so you have people who are walking to the grocery store there. There's no lights in that section there, okay? So, I tend to agree. We don't necessarily have to have a community safety zone. We can control it with the speed limit. And if someone's going 70, okay, they're going to pay a pretty hefty fine, period.
Yeah.
Councillor Ray.
Yes, and you're right, Bill. However, we've got sidewalks that we build for the people to stay on, right? So, again, going to the grocery store is immaterial. I mean, it's just the community safety zone itself should not be all the way out to Clear Lake and back. It's just not right.
Councillor Bob.
Look, my suggestion is I'm going to go back to what I said before. We've got really two separate issues. I think we got things handled with the speed limit. Really, the question seems to be why we have a community safety zone in some areas. Councillor Millot brought up a point that she feels it's a good idea at the committee meeting. It's a good idea to have it out at Clear Lake, and I agree. Beyond Clear Lake, I would wonder why we have a community safety zone myself. Really, I think something might be that in the fall it should come back to the community services, if you like, to have a second look at it with some staff recommendations on. Mr. Parker made one suggestion in the report, and let it come back to community services again, and with a little fuller understanding of the exactly what a community safety zone means in terms of getting a ticket from, if you get stopped. Because we're, you know, that's what I would suggest.
Councillor Ray.
It states what the community zones are, or those safety zones are for. They're for churches, schools, or I don't even think they say churches, but schools, parks, hospitals, retirees, like old
Nursing homes.
nursing homes. That's right.
Yeah,
think
there's a lot
old folks
of, there's a
will
lot
try.
of retired people crossing at Giant Tiger, and there's a lot of people crossing that road where Tim Hortons is. It takes them 10 minutes to get across, if not longer.
I understand, but they got a speed limit to follow.
But
Your Honor, we have a park at Clear Lake, and we're establishing it's looking beautiful. Every year, we're spending more and more money on there. People are using it. We need to slow that traffic down.
But there's nothing wrong with that area, having a community
Well,
safety.
that's a community
That's-
safety zone.
That's right,
From-
but it goes all the way through.
Well,
We
I'm
don't
just
need it.
talking about
Mhm.
that area.
That's
It
fine.
should
You
stay.
said parks.
Bob can look at it.
Yeah, but that was my suggestion. Look, send the thing back to community services. It was brought here for a little more direction, and because it would probably get brought up anyway, it's just send it back to community services for a little more direction. I don't have a problem with reducing the amount of area that's covered by the community safety zones, none at all. The speed limits are appropriate, I think, for the areas. But let it come back with some staff, let staff take a second look at it and let it come back. But I don't think anybody should look at it as a cash cow. This council's been here for 3.5 years and we've heard one person complain about it getting an extra heavy-duty fine because it's a community safety zone. So I really do wonder how many tickets were handed out. We know that the traffic laws are being enforced on the road as they should be. So let it come back to community services for a look at it. That's what it was brought to council for direction. That would be my suggestion.
And I can live with that.
Yep.
yeah, I can live with that.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Conference and conventions. None. Mayor and council reports and announcements. I'd like to make a comment about that new van. It looks really good and it's working well, and the ease which people can get off the sidewalk into the van is excellent. I think that was money well spent. Our seniors, and I met a bunch of them at the Winkles, and the seniors were shopping and they loved it because they could easily put their stuff in the van. And kudos to Espanola. I think that's a really good purchase. Bob, you got anything?
No, I was going to mention the van. You took care of it very nicely because it is great to see, and I've heard some good things about it. July 1st, everybody's seen the schedule. If they haven't, it's on the town website and in the local media. Have a good time.
Right on. Great.
No, I'm good, thanks.
You're good. Ron?
A couple things, Your Worship. As you know, we have a new rec advisory committee. We've had 2 meetings so far. Cheryl, secretary, Jules, and leader and chief. I think it's done very well. I mean, it's new and we're all in the learning process. We've got a chairperson now and a vice chair. I think there's a nice cross-section of the community. And at the first meeting, we all talked about recreation, and it was nice to hear the concept that recreation isn't only hockey or baseball or whatever, there's arts involved. And I think we're heading in the right direction.
Right on.
I'm happy to see it, and I like the people that are on it. The next thing I have is not a pleasant thing. Another person I knew very well that passed away here on the weekend. And you know, I feel so bad because sometimes we don't keep in touch with people as much as we should, and it's awful when we lose them, then we wish. I was going to stop there and talk to him, and it didn't happen last weekend anyway. I would like to propose something, and I don't know how the rest feel. I'm just going to bring it up as a concept and think about it. Maybe we could put it as an item for discussion at the next meeting. Maybe even get some input from staff. But maybe yearly, we would take a few minutes at the beginning of a council meeting and read out the people in our community that we've lost over the year. Because I'll tell you, we're losing a lot of our old senior citizens. This gentleman here, I went to school with him, and after he retired, he went away to college and then worked in Ottawa. And after retirement, came back to make Espanola his home, where he started from. and I knew his parents quite well. And I would just like people to think, would it not be nice to take a few minutes at the beginning of a meeting, pick a time? Maybe we could, at the next meeting with some discussion, pick a committee, probably take 1 or 2 meetings just to get a format of how we would do it, and name the residents of our community publicly that we've lost over the year.
Well, you can put it on the agenda and we'd certainly look at it.
I'd like it to come up maybe for discussion at the next meeting. We could have it on the agenda for sure. And last but not least, summer's upon us. It's warm, it's dry. I'd like to wish staff, the residents of Espanola, a happy and safe summer. Whether it be on the water with this warm weather or traveling our busy highways, be safe and have a happy summer.
Thank you. All right, what about the rest of you? Heather?
I was going to mention the van too. I heard from a lot of people that really love it.
Oh, yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Chairman.
I don't have any.
Bill. This meeting is now adjourned. Regular meeting of council July 10th, 2018 at 7:30 a.m. Regular meeting of council is hereby adjourned. All in favor? Carried.